Ladies and gentlemen, it's happening. It's happening right now, just like the Bible said. We're coming to you live now with a event happening right now that's a first-time ever event in the Middle East. This is the first time this has ever happened. It's happening in the Middle East, and it's happening to Israel. We wanted to come on live with you right now and tell you about this. It's really amazing. We had just filmed and published a report about how that Israel had just this week attacked a Iranian base in Syria again this week because they had intelligence that a missile attack was imminent. They had noticed unusual Iranian activity, military activity, and they realized that an imminent missile attack was about to happen from this Iranian base in Syria. So Israel had launched an attack against this Iranian base in Syria. We had just filmed and published this evening a video about that. It just went up on Facebook, just went up on YouTube, just went up on our social media. And just as we had finished that, amazingly, we saw the news reports coming across the media sites that for the first time ever, there's been the first ever direct attack by Iran on Israel. That's right, you heard that correctly. For the first time ever, Iran has directly attacked Israel. That had never happened before. But news media is telling us that just in the past few hours, that I was wondering how long it was going to take Iran to finally get around to doing this, because you could see it building over the past months, how that Iran was trying to get the military equipment in place, get the military troops in place so that they could scale up and begin to launch direct attacks against Israel. And finally, Israel kept on, just as we said in the video we just published. What Israel was doing was that they were attacking Iran military bases in Syria so that they could minimize their ability to get their forces and equipment in place so that they could scale up for a direct attack on Israel. But finally, Iran has done it. They got to the place to where they just felt like they had to respond to these repetitive attacks by Israel on Iranian forces in Syria. And now, for the first time ever, Iran has made a direct attack on Israel. And let's go to the news media. Let's go down into this together. The news media is saying, this is the Washington Post, and this was published just a little while ago, that confrontation between Israel and Iranian forces in Syria have sharply escalated in the early hours of Thursday, that's Israel time, as Israel and Iran launched a barrage of 20 missiles into positions toward the Israeli military in the Golan Heights. The report goes on to say that there was heavy military jet activity, explosions, and air defense fire that could be heard throughout the area in the Golan Heights. The Golan Heights is the northern border of Israel that borders, that's the border between Israel and Syria. And we've been reporting to you now for the past couple of years how that Russian forces and also Iranian forces, together their allies in Syria, and how they had been building up their forces and moving their forces closer and closer to the border between Syria and Iran. And remember, this border between Iran and Syria, between Israel and Syria, is a disputed border. Now, this is territory that Israel took back from Syria back during the 67 Israeli-Arab conflict war, and this has always been disputed territory between Israel and Syria. In fact, there's actually been UN resolutions and many Arab statements that Israel, they want Israel to return this land. But Israel has said that without a doubt that the Golan Heights is forever Israeli land, and they will not give it up. So this is a disputed border between Israel and Syria, and now News reports saying that there's heavy military jet activity, explosions, air defense fire being heard throughout that area. And an Israeli military spokesman said the rockets were fired by Iran's Revolutionary Guard Force, the Quds Force. The Quds Force is a special forces unit that's a part of Iran's Revolutionary Guards. And again, this is marking the first time that Iranian forces have ever directly fired on Israeli troops. The news report goes on to say the Israeli military said several of the rockets had been intercepted by Israel's missile defense system, but that several still made it through. So far, there are no reports of any casualties on the Israeli side. Now, the Syrian state news agency, however, reported that it was Israel that had fired on targets first at a town located just east of the Golan Heights, and that Syrian forces had responded. But always, Syrian state news agency is going to say something exactly opposite of Israel, and they're going to say something that's really more propaganda for their own purposes. But the Israeli military also said it views this event with great severity and remains prepared for a wide variety of scenarios. Now, air raid sirens have been sounding in the Golan Heights during the night. Also, they say at Tiberias on the edge of the Sea of Galilee, explosions could be heard above tourist areas, the noise of the tourist areas, and the explosions were followed by sporadic fire. It doesn't say what kind of fire. Also, it goes on to say that there was all of this activity that's going on now with Israel just making another strike this week against Iranian forces at a base there in Syria. Now with Iran responding with this barrage of 20 missiles fired into the Golan Heights of Israel. All of this is happening right after President Trump's decision on Tuesday of this week to pull the United States out of the nuclear deal with Iran, which, Tehran now has. What reason does Tehran have to exercise caution whenever it comes to confronting Israel? So now we're seeing this escalation of conflict between Israel and Iran since President Trump has pulled the U.S. out of the Iranian nuclear deal. It goes on to say here, while Trump was in Washington announcing the withdrawal, it says the Golan Heights residents of Israel were on Tuesday opening up and getting their bomb shelters ready. So Israel certainly knew what was coming with this. But it says here in the news report, this is the first time that the Israeli Defense Force Army has instructed Israeli citizens in the Golan Heights in the 7 years of the Civil War. This is the first time that the IDF has instructed Israeli citizens to be prepared to go to their bomb shelters in that area. As we go on through the news media releases here, we see that the Times of Israel is reporting that the IDF spokesperson, Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conricus, is saying this event is not over. Sirens are blaring across the Golan Heights throughout the exchange, sending residents into bomb shelters. The IDF Home Front Command called on residents to listen to security instructions as needed. The spokesperson also said the Army was still sorting out many of the specific details related to the attack. As we were saying, this has just been happening. We're coming to you live now to tell you about this. So there's a lot of unanswered questions here about the 20 missiles from Iran, exactly where they were targeted, exactly where they were hit, what type of projectiles were used, how, may have been more than 20 rockets that were fired. We'll wait and see as these details come out, but they're saying that this event is not over. And it's unclear as to the extent of how long this action and reaction will be going on, where we have Israel taking the military action. Now we have, for the first time ever, Iran out of Syria taking a direct military action against Israel. This is the first time this has ever happened. So we don't know exactly how long this exchange may go, attack, counterattack may go forward from here. Never happened before, first time. There's some pop-ups coming up with some videos that are now being shared on social media. We had just saw this on the media reports. We wanted to get on live with you. We haven't had any time to accumulate any of those to share with you, but those are coming up now on social media. It says it appears to show the barrage of missiles apparently being fired by multiple launch rocket systems, or MLRSs, from Syria toward Israel. It says that residents of both the Israeli and Syrian Golan Heights areas reported very loud reported explosions that were going on. And it says the attack came just a day after, as we were just reporting from the information that we had current at that time that we published tonight in the previous video we just published. We reported in that how that the government was calling on citizens in the Golan Heights to open their bomb shelters and be prepared in light of the unusual and strange activities that had been noticed by Israeli and U.S. surveillance of Iran in Syria, the abnormal activities, unusual activities that were going on. They deduced that it seemed like an imminent missile attack was on the rise here, was about to come, and now it has. So then as we move on and look over into some more of the media reports here, that's really not anything new. That's just a repeat of what we had already reported to you. It says the Israeli, this is talking about, now this is Haaretz out of Israel, media reporting this. They're saying that the Israeli military is now carrying out an attack on Iranian targets in Syria, a counterattack. The Army spokesperson for Arabic media said that the Israeli Air Force is currently attacking Iranian targets in Syria. Any Syrian attempt, they are saying, to respond will be met with a tough Israeli reaction. This attack comes after Syrian reports claimed overnight that Israeli missiles were launched at Syria. So there's a lot of action and reaction here. It says here moments earlier, a barrage of 20 rockets was fired from Syria towards Israeli military outposts in the Golan Heights. It says several rockets were intercepted by the Israeli Iron Dome missile defense system. The Israeli army is saying the attack is by members of the Quds force of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. So what we have here is that Israel had attacked an Iranian base a couple of days ago this week. Now we have an Iranian attack, first ever direct military attack by the Iranians onto Israeli soil against Israel. That has happened with an initial report saying a barrage of 20 missiles were fired by the Iranians out of Syria into the Israeli Golan Heights. First time ever this has happened. And now the news media are saying that Israel is counterattacking against Iran in Syria. So we'll have to see how long this goes on, and if there's an ongoing offensive that Israel makes in response to Iran's attack for the first time ever on Israel. This is another sign of the last days prophecies that are showing us that we live in the days of the Ezekiel 38 prophecy, which the Bible says, the prophet of old, Ezekiel, said that in the last days that Russia, Magog Russia, and also Persia, which is today modern-day Iran, that they would be on the borders of Israel, and that as on the borders of Israel, they would be planning a surprise attack on Israel that would happen. Now, this today is not that attack. This today is just a preliminary military incursion by Iran, but it is hugely significant. This is hugely significant. It is a sign of the last days prophecies, a sign of the Ezekiel 38 prophecy. And this is a sign that that prophecy, pointing to that prophecy and showing how real the fulfillment of that prophecy will be. This is just an initial military incursion, first time ever by Iran against Israel, but it is a sign of the coming future invasion by Russia and Iran and all of its Arab Muslim alliance, all of the countries affiliated with Iran and Russia. There's coming a day when they'll make a surprise attack on Israel. That is a last day significant prophetic event that will be like the first domino falling, and a lot of dominoes that will fall relative to what's going to happen in the last days. So this is a significant, huge sign tonight of the last days prophecies where Iran has made its first ever direct attack on Israel. It's time to take the holy prophecies of God serious, and it's time to prepare for the coming of Jesus Christ. For the Lord himself in the last days will come and will rapture his church out of this world into the clouds of the air to meet with him. While the world goes into great tribulation, the church of the Lord Jesus Christ will rise to meet Jesus in the air and go to a great celebration. But this is a sign. What's happening right now tonight is a sign of prophecies that are going to be fulfilled, leading the world into the great tribulation of earth. It's time to get ready for the coming of Jesus Christ.